Hello, 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 everyone. Nicole Roberts-Jones here, Bankroll Your Brilliance expert, and welcome to Bankroll Your Brilliance Thursdays. So this is our second episode. I'm beyond excited to share with you tools, tips, and insight to get paid for what you know. So every week I will be here to share with you. And during our first episode, I share with you the three pillars that we're going to focus in on, which are the three things you've got to do to get paid for what you know. So those three pillars are number one, it's be the authority and really standing confident in the lane that God created you to swim in. The second pillar is to know your worth, to really understand the value that you bring to the table. And really, that's a conversation around work-life balance, about standing in how much you should get paid and anything in between. And then last but not least is looking at revenue streams, right? So every episode, I'm going to come to you and we're going to focus on one of those three pillars. And so today we're focused on pillar number one, be the authority. And we're going to have a really good conversation about purpose being good for you. Now, listen, have you ever heard this quote? This job is hazardous to my health. Or have you ever said that, right? So there is an article in Fast Company magazine that shared a study that said most people who lack fulfillment in their career also report not doing well in their health. And so this conversation is going to be a good one. So listen, as you're coming in, number one, tell me name and where you're from. I'm trying to pull up my comments so I can see them here. So come on in, tell me name and where you're joining from. I'll pull them up on my phone. And then second, if you have questions as we share, I want you to post your questions here so we can actually answer your questions. Now, listen, if you also want to share things you want us to talk about, see it scrolling down at the bottom of the screen. So just know every week, every conversation we have here, Bankroll Your Brilliance Thursdays, by the way, it's only 30 minutes, real quick, actionable insight to move you forward. I'm going to actually take insight from you. So you see the email scrolling at the bottom of the screen, byb@blackdoctor.org. If you have questions you want me to address, if you have insight you want me to give you tools and tips all around growing you and really going after your breathtaking future based on the gift that God placed in you, anything, right? Whether making money, how to get clear on it, work-life balance, how do you make it happen, anything in between, I want you to email those questions to me, okay? Again, it's byb@blackdoctor.org. With that said, let's get the party started for today's conversation. Again, is purpose good for you? Looking at that study that Fast Company magazine shared, I'm beyond excited to introduce our special guest for today. Good morning, Jade and Carolyn and Melvina in Louisiana. Yes, tell us where you guys are coming from too. So our guest today is Meedie Bardonille. So Meedie is not only a health advocate, not only the chair of the DC Nursing Board, but she is a phenomenal woman out there affecting change on a healthcare level like no one I have ever seen. So please help me welcome Miss Meedie.
Hey girl, how are you?
I'm excited to be here.
So let me tell you guys.
I'm looking at comments. Good morning, Tyra from Houston. So let's get this party started, Meedie, and tell us, why is hating your job bad for you?
So first of all, Nicole, thank you for allowing me to be here. I'm so excited. Thank you for all of the viewers that are watching. Such an honor and a privilege to always share a platform with you, my sister. So just thank you. To answer your question, first of all, why hate anything? Life is too short. We are all created. The topic that we're talking about is specifically around purpose. So if you are going to a job or doing something that you hate, clearly you are not walking in your purpose. And purpose, as we all know, should be defined as simply why something even exists. Why was it created? And so if you're hating that thing, clearly you're not in your purpose. As it relates to the workplace, I think having occupational health and wellness is so important. Whenever, as a nurse, as you introduced me, whenever I interview, new nurses, particularly new grad nurses, I ask them, why do you want to even be a nurse? What are you here for? What is your purpose? Because I'm not just interviewing them, Nicole. They are all, should be rather, interviewing me because it needs to be a mutually beneficial relationship. I think the part when you think about hate and how it impacts one's health and wellness, we all know, hopefully we know, or we've heard about that thing called cortisol. And cortisol is a stress hormone that is released whenever you have anxiety, stress, etc. And so,
hold on. Look, Meedie,
I'm ready.
So tell us cortisol, girl. I'm like, And I'm not
And I'm
taking
not
notes.
taking notes.
I'm trying to
Trying
take
to take
notes.
notes.
So
So
tell us
So
about
tell us about
cortisol
cortisol
again.
again.
So, cortisol is a hormone that is produced by your adrenal glands, and it basically sometimes often responds to, again, emotions, activities, whatever you're happening. I'm sure we all are aware of that flight and fight response. We've all heard of people who maybe they're in a really bad situation or car accident, and all of a sudden there's a woman who's able to lift, a ton car, 1,000-pound vehicle. That is because of cortisol and all these things that are produced in your body that creates these stress hormones. So, and adrenaline rather. But as it relates to cortisol, cortisol is directly, again, a stress hormone, and whenever that takes place, cortisol regulates it regulates your blood sugar, it regulates inflammation in your body, it has impacts on your memory formation, it also has a very strong impact on your metabolism. So if you have too much cortisol, you're going to have a negative impact on those things that I just mentioned.
That's so
That's
good.
so good.
And by the
And by
way,
the
I
way, I
appreciate
appreciate
that there's an
that there's
echo.
an
People
echo.
trying to
People
figure out
trying
what
to
the
figure out
echo
what the echo
is.
is.
We
We
can't
can't
listen.
listen.
I figure
I
it's
think
more
it's more
important that
important
you
you
guys
guys
get
get
this
this
information
information
than for us to
than
be
for us to
focused
be
on the
focused on
echo.
the echo.
I don't know
I don't
why
know
it's
why
stupid.
it's stupid.
So
So
here's what I
here's
want
what I
y'all to
want
do.
y'all to
Let me
do.
see
Let me see if
if I
but if
mute
I mute
myself,
myself,
you won't
you
hear
won't
me.
hear me.
Anyway, I'm
Anyway,
not a
I'm not a
technology
technology
person.
person.
So the
So
thing
the
that's
thing
really
that's really
interesting
interesting
is what
is
I've
what I've
found,
found
Meedie, is it
is it
takes
takes
so much
so
more
much more
energy
energy
when you're
when you're
doing
doing
something that you
something that you
absolutely hate,
absolutely hate,
right?
right?
Actually, you know
Actually, you
what?
know what?
Put me on
Put me on
mute while I'm
mute while I'm
talking. Let me
talking.
see
Let
if
me
that
see if that
on your
on your
thing, Meedie.
thing,
Let me see
Meedie.
if
Let
that
me see if that
helps.
helps.
Listen, this is us being rogue while we're sharing. Okay, yeah, there it goes. Okay, so listen. So here's what I know for sure, y'all. When you do something you hate, just think about the Sunday blues. How many of y'all have Sunday blues and you are thinking about Monday morning? And sometimes it's Friday night and you think about Monday already, right? Anybody feel like that? Tell us. And what does that produce in you? It takes so much more energy. And even if I correlate that with hate, when you're going through an argument with someone, when you're trying to hate on someone, when you're trying to hold a grudge, all of that is negative energy. And that negative energy produces cortisol. But what I've seen, and tell us about this, Meedie, it produces depression. I've seen it produce hypertension. I've seen people gain weight, right? Somebody said, can we test? Peachy, that's a good question. Can we test our cortisol? Is there a test? Meedie, do you know the answer to that question?
So you can absolutely test those levels in your body, and I think it's important that don't just test just for cortisol, right? Because cortisol impacts other things. Again, it's produced from your adrenal glands. So the short answer is there's absolutely blood tests out there that you can check to make sure your adrenal gland is functioning appropriately, and if the physician or your healthcare provider feels that it's necessary, they can do so.
And the
And the
thing
thing
too,
too,
thank you. The things we got to go through when we don't know technology. So listen. This is us. We look. We're talent. We don't know technology, so we're committed to be here regardless of what we got to do. Right? Yes, you can get tested. So, and here's the other thing I want to encourage you to do is check yourself. Right? When you notice that you're having a stressful day, I want you to realize what's causing you stress. Is it the job? Is it your boss? Right? And if it is your boss, you can't do anything about him or her, but you could do something about the way you react to it, right? So that's one piece of your homework. So let's talk a little bit about some of the things that you see producing, even as a nurse. What are you seeing, especially in COVID? Because this is a stressful time, y'all. We've been going through some things in the last year that have been out of the norm. So, what have you been seeing come through, even in the hospitals? Even one of the things that Media does too is she consults with other healthcare agencies. So, what things have you been seeing coming through as a result of COVID?
So the first one, quite frankly, Nicole, that you just mentioned is this little thing out there called COVID. And the problem with COVID, outside of COVID itself, and we don't want to have that long discussion because obviously, unless you've been living underneath a rock for the last 12 months, you know what's happening with COVID. But the other impact of COVID is the untold impact of COVID. And I know that kind of sounds like a play on words, but it's really not. There are people, because of stress, because of the things that they are feeling, are not following up with their healthcare providers. There's a lot of persons who, as you just briefly indicated earlier, where your blood sugars are getting increased, kidney functions are being impacted, cancers are being developed and underdiagnosed and or misdiagnosed because individuals have not gone to see their healthcare providers. And so because of the stress that everyone is under, regardless of your social economic status, we all have an impact from COVID-19, particularly over these last 12 months. And why, again, the topic that we're speaking of today, don't hate your job. Find find purpose even in the middle of this pandemic to make sure that you are number one caring for yourself. Because if you are not here, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter if you're the president or if you're literally the janitor at a facility. All of us have been impacted by this, and you really have to find and know and just try to figure out how to love what it is that you do. Again, we talked about hate. We talked about the impact of having cortisol and how it impacts your health and wellness. And Nicole, I would be remiss, because whenever I have an opportunity to share, I want people to know there is a difference between health and wellness, right? There's a difference of being healthy and then being well. Just because you can be healthy means you might have an absence of a disease, meaning you're not diagnosed with something. But it doesn't mean that you're necessarily well. It doesn't mean that you're not necessarily, as you alluded to earlier, getting enough rest, making sure you're drinking enough water, making sure you're in a good mental place and space, making sure you're not hating that boss or not liking where you know, if you're pulling up into the driveway at your job and you just feel this sense of gloom and doom, that ultimately, even though you're technically healthy, it will impact your wellness. And so that is something that during this particular time of COVID, outside of, again, the other impact that COVID has on us, and particularly other individuals that are black, that are black and brown individuals, we know that we're disproportionately impacted from other illnesses, chronic diseases, even before COVID. So you have all these other underlying diseases, and now you basically not sandwiched, but you bricklayer on that COVID. And so it's such a very trying time. And I think we all need to just kind of pause and really think about, how is this impacting me? You think you're okay. Myself, Nicole, you know this. I've shared this story very openly and personally. I am a very healthy person. Unfortunately, I got COVID back in January. I am now a person who is hypertensive. I am one of the 4 black women who often are underdiagnosed or misdiagnosed and or will be diagnosed with a cardiovascular disease in their lifetime. I'm hoping and praying, and I'm doing the work, as you always say, Nicole, do the work. I'm doing the work to make sure that I am increasing my exercise, making modifications to my diet, and I am seeing and under the care of a cardiologist, a black cardiologist, might I add, who is saying, hey, because your blood pressure was so high, which is an impact directly because of my diagnosis of COVID, let's see if we can reverse this. So my other message to share to individuals that there are a lot of chronic illnesses that are out there, and again, hate, I wouldn't say hate as a diagnosis, but hate being something that, think about what we've dealt with this twindemic of COVID, and then all the social injustice, the social unrest. So that also is something that also impacts us, which then in turn will impact our health and wellness. So I'm doing those things to make sure that I myself can make a reverse with that, my own hypertension issues that I've been dealing with.
So let's unpack this a little bit, because look, again, Meedie is going all the way, and you guys, she lives and breathes this. So as you hear Sharon, she's like rattling stuff off, right? Because this is what she does 24/7, not even just 9 to 5. I'm talking 24/7, 365. Okay. So I want you guys to get this, know your body and knowing your symptoms, right? Becky says, look, Becky just got home from the dietitian. So thank you for sharing that. She says, knowing your body and knowing your symptoms and monitoring things, usual and unusual. Right. But let's talk a little bit about wellness. Let's talk a little bit about wellness. If you had to give, now, let me say this before I say wellness. Now, it's so funny. I'm going to be honest with you guys, okay? So my husband and I were talking about Meedie the other day, okay? Because I was like, oh, I can't wait. You know, I want to run with Meedie every morning. He was like, excuse me, hold on, stop. Meedie runs like 9 miles in the morning. You can barely run 2, right? So I want you guys to get that. She is an avid, and here's what I know about you, Meedie, about running. And dare I say this, it's not about exercise for you. It's about wellness for you. That's part of your own thing you do for your own happiness, for your own wellness. So when we look at wellness, can you give our viewers 2 or 3 tips to really include? Now, again, remember, Meedie said there's a difference between health and wellness. So yes, you should be getting checked up. Go get your checkups. Yes, you should be eating a healthy or living a healthy lifestyle, eating a healthy diet. Now, diet, to me, when you hear diet, it means a lack of food. I'm not talking about lack of food. I'm talking about eating the right foods. Okay, that's a whole different topic. When we talk about wellness, it's a altogether different thing. And so tell us maybe 3 tips, if you can, on how to really make sure we're adding wellness into our life.
The very first thing is simple. You are responsible for your health and wellness, period, exclamation point, period, and another exclamation point. Whatever that looks like, whatever journey in life that you are, whatever your age is, I am not here to tell you what you have to or should do, except for make sure you are responsible for you and whatever that means. And I know that's a broad, like Nicole said, we can be on here for another 2 hours talking about that.
Oh, can I add to that?
Yes.
Number two. So there's a principle. You put your thing on me. Sorry, I need to do this. Me and my echo. So there's a principle I teach my clients called be, do, have, and I want y'all to get this. Somebody needs to write this down because it came in my spirit. So this is for one of y'all, right? So I want you to get this: be, do, have. We focus on what do we need to do, what do we need to do, what do we need to do, so we can have this thing. What do I need to do so I can have a raise? What do I need to do so I can start a business? What do I need to do? But we leave out being. And can I tell you, you can't get to having without being. And so when we talk about wellness, I want you to check in with your being. First of all, if you go to the Bible, and yes, y'all know I'm a God's girl, the first thing God said is, let there be light. Let there be. He didn't say, let me do light. He said, let me be. Let there be. So being is when you sit with your soul and you check in with yourself. It's looking at what do you need on a daily basis to restore yourself. If I have a cup, now don't laugh at me because it's a bad example of a cup, but listen, I'm trying to get my water into my wellness, right? I'm halfway through it. This is on my morning water, by the way. I'm supposed to drink all this by lunch. I'm only right here. Long way to go before I eat. Anyway, so this cup, this container, if I pour in it, the goal is for me to serve from my overflow. But if people keep taking out of it, at some point it's going to be down here. Okay. And so what happens is, and this is what Meedie's talking about when you're checking in with your wellness, is if you don't stop long enough to check in and say, oop, I better pour some more water in there. Oop, I better get some more, right? Oop, I better add some more in there, right? Who said brainwashed? What are you talking about? Brainwashed about what, right? So I want you guys to get that. Wellness is you stopping to check in with yourself. That's your being saying, ooh, I need some little time for me. Now I'll tell you the way that I find my being is two things. In the morning, I have what I call Jesus time. So before I do anything else, I have a little seat. My husband teases me. I have a little seat in our den where I sit. And he's like, can I sit there? It's like it's only me and Jesus seat or something, right? Because he knows that's where I have my Jesus time every morning. So I give myself 20 to 30 minutes every morning that I journal. Sometimes I just read a devotional. Sometimes I just sit in silence. Sometimes I just play a praise and worship song. Just depending on how I feel in that moment to recharge my day. And then I do the same thing in the evening. Now, if I'm going through a project and I'm in overwhelm, I do it at lunch because I might need an extra charge of Jesus because I'm getting ready to do something that's either going to be overwhelming. And I love what I do, but it doesn't mean that I don't need to recharge myself if I feel depleted or tired. I just got my vaccine shot a couple of days ago. And Meedie asked me this before we started. How do you feel? Yesterday, I had a headache. Now I also have allergies, so I didn't know if my headache was because of my shot or I canceled a meeting yesterday afternoon. I went and laid down because I realized I can't push through if I don't feel good. And I knew I had a meeting last night. So when am I saying all of this? Check in with your being, right? Check in with your being. And somebody says God are our ancestors, right? I don't know what you're talking about, Amsu. I am so confused. But if you have questions, please ask, right? So elaborate, please. Elaborate on what, Becky? Please tell me because I will, right? So that's step one. Is what do you need for your wellness? I want you guys to try some different things out. If it's taking a walk, take a walk. If it's sitting down, and just for me, is sitting down on my little lounge chair. And sometimes it's listening to praise and worship music. Sometimes it's writing in my journal. Sometimes it's reading a devotional. Sometimes I need all three. Sometimes I need to take a week off and go sit on a beach somewhere. That's real, even though I haven't done that lately. So really looking at what do you need for your wellness on a daily basis, right? So with that, Meedie, I'll hush. What's the second thing?
The next thing is shifting your mindset, because choosing to not think about your health and wellness, Nicole, is going to cost you everything.
Ooh, that's
shift your mindset, because choosing not to think about your health and wellness will in the long term cost you everything. And I just want to make sure you guys are clear. I was already exercising and taking care of myself before COVID. So I just want you all to know I didn't have high blood pressure before. My high blood pressure is a result of COVID. So I just wanted to make sure you all knew that. But what I want you all to know is that choosing to now all of a sudden, if you have high blood pressure, now all of a sudden you have diabetes, now you are being reactionary. So choosing to not think about it when you start getting in your 40s and 50s and 60s, and as we continue to live this thing called life, and we can't do what we did when we were in our teens and 20s and our early 30s, everything shifts. And so I'm in that part of my life as well where things are shifting. I can't eat what I used to eat before and still look the same and still feel the same. Now, what you are fueling your body is really truly impacting it. So again, my second thing is just your mindset, that choosing not to think about your health will ultimately cost you everything.
That's so good.
Yep.
Let me see questions coming up. So I'm Sui. You asked me, my question to you is, do you think Christianity pertains to us as people? So this is not a Christianity episode. This episode is not about a Christianity. So I'm not going to dig into that, but let me just say this. It pertains to me. So that's why I bring up Jesus time. That's why I said I'm a God's girl. So you understand where I'm coming from, right? And so I'm not a preacher, so I can't answer Christianity questions, but I am a Christian. So yes, so I just want you to know that that's where I'm coming from, because I am a believer and I see how God has worked in my life, in my health, wellness, and my business. And so I'll always bring that up on these episodes. Okay. So did I see another question? I believe in recharging myself, even though like you, I like what I'm doing right. Let me say one other thing, and then I'm going to let Meedie share her third step. So my cell phone is here, right? So if I don't charge my cell phone, when I come the next day, what happens? It's dead. But most of us will keep going like the Energizer Bunny, like our energy is going to automatically replenish itself. That is so not real. So the thing I love about watching Meedie as you run, it charges me up. Look, I got my butt on the treadmill yesterday. I'm like, oh, I got to hurry up before Meedie starts asking me to run with her, because I want to do it, right? But I know that if I'm going to keep up, not on a health way, but because as a sister friend way, I'm like, that'd be a great way to connect. We can go eat after, we can hang, but it also encourages me to up level my own wellness, watching someone else do what they do, right? And it also, when I run, to be honest with you, when I'm exhausted and I make myself run in the morning, I get an extra burst of energy. So I also feel the difference in my own body when I push myself around that. So with that said,
The other thing I wanted to say, Nicole, kind of, and just wrapping up the things that I wanted to make sure I shared with you all, because clearly, and before I say that, I could clearly give you, this is a regimen, and I know we don't have enough time on this platform to do so. So whatever that wellness, and again, Nicole hit the nail directly on the head. When we say diet does not mean, as she said, a reduction of food per se. Sometimes it does. Quite frankly, sometimes changing your diet really means you need to eat more, right? So I just want to make sure you all know that there's clearly regimens. Please make sure check in with your physician, check in with your healthcare provider so you can get on an appropriate regimen. Do your own research, check with a dietitian or nutritionist that can help you get on the right platform to make a complete assessment, because as a nurse, I don't want to give medical advice without knowing you. So I don't want anyone ever come back to Nicole and says, Meedie said that nurse on her show said I needed to do this. No, check with your healthcare provider first. But the other thing I wanted to also let you all know, because we are talking about purpose and not hating and not doing those things on a daily basis that increases that cortisol level that can adversely impact your health, is I want to ask this question as my third point. What are you doing to keep your body alive long enough to fulfill your purpose? And that's really the question. So Nicole is like, that jar she has like 50 gallons of purpose. That's just who she is. She pours it out. She gives. But I do personally know that don't call her on a Friday night, because that's her and her husband's date night. She might respond, unless if it's an emergency, she'll reach back out. But I know she already, just for her relationship, let alone her own personal health, wealth, and being, but even that impacts her mental state. So she's in a good place, so that, because your mental state impacts everything else, right? And so what are you doing to take care of your body so you can live and fulfill and do the things that you are put on this earth to do, whatever that is? I am a nurse working in an acute care. I'm at work now. Probably see I'm on my break, but I'm at work now, and in the middle of a pandemic. No, I don't want to be here, you guys. I don't want to have to risk. I mean, I love what I do, but I mean, I don't want to have to be in a hospital setting, but I love what I do. I love caring for people. I love being that person that can advocate for them. I love talking and teaching and having patient education. I love supporting my newer nurses and helping them figure out and navigate this pathway into healthcare. Yeah, I say sick care. Yeah, that's another conversation too. However, that is my goal. So when I can smile, I I can have such a exuberant excitement to talk to Nicole about today, because I love what I do, even though I'm in a hospital that has plenty of COVID positive patients, even though I'm on a unit caring for patients that have cancer diagnosis and have half of their intestines or something dealt with or manipulated in an operating room. But I love what I do, and that is my purpose. But if I'm not taking care of Meedie, and Nicole knows me, so she knows, yes, my running, quite frankly, to be truthful with you all, isn't just about maintaining a size 4 or 6 or 8 or 10 or whatever it is. That is really my place of de-stress. That is really my moment to connect again with the earth upon which I live. That is my time to breathe. That is where I clear my mind. And also, I'm physically active. And so for me, find out what that is, whether it's journaling, whether it's walking, whether it's, playing tennis or swimming or whatever it is. For that physical activity, it's important to do. And the last thing that I will say is also, don't wait until you die to start thinking about your health. Don't wait until you get that diagnosis, or don't wait until the doctor or someone says you have XYZ and then you want to start getting into shape. Doesn't work that way. If you don't change you can have the best Maserati brand new vehicle. If you don't change the oil, the car will break. And you're costing yourself more by not going to get the oil changed in that fancy Maserati without changing if you don't change the oil, you're costing more. So that whole thing is dead. It's dead. Steve Jobs was one of the world's most richest individuals ever. Unfortunately, he passed away from pancreatic cancer. You can't take all this with you. You can't. All you have is me. I have to, and Nicole coaches me, she pours into me. Take care of you so you can then do the work, so you can be, do, and have. And I just shared that with you. You can't have anything if you're not being or doing something so you can do the have, or can experience the have, rather. So those are my third tip, is really, what are you doing to your body or to fulfill your body so you can be here to experience that.
So good. So, look, we could be here 3 hours, because this is how we do. So with that, as we wrap for this episode, Meedie, tell those of you that need health coaching, need support, whether you work in the healthcare system or you really need health coaching, this is what Meedie does. So Meedie, tell them how they can get in touch with you.
So thank you so much, Nicole. I am co-founding a company with my husband, Tony Bardonille, out there, called Afia Wellness Solutions, where we really have a desire and a passion to help impact our community, specifically around health inequities and disparities. So feel free to reach out to me at info@Afia, AFYA wellness.org, info@AfiaWellness.org. I'm on all social media platforms, IG, Facebook, as well as even LinkedIn. You can go to Meedie Bardonille. My name is, I think, on the screen there. And also for my Facebook page and IG page, my handle is simply Meedie B. So in closing, Nicole, thank you for having me. It's such an honor and such a pleasure. And as I always share to everybody, be well and live.
Yes. Thank you, Meedie. We appreciate you. Such a wealth of information. So great. So with that said, y'all, the goal every week we come give you actionable insight. So this week is all about your health and getting your body in alignment with where you're going in this thing called life. What are you purposed to do in this world? So those of you that have purpose questions, I've seen quite a few. Send us an email. Let me again send you put the email address up here. I'm happy to address that. That could be my next episode. It's talking all about purpose. If that's what you want me to help you get clear on what your purpose is, how do you stand in the full power of it? Send us an email and say, Nicole, please tell me how to find my purpose, right? If that's you, byb@blackdoctor.org is where you go to just send us an email. Again, I want this to be interactive. I want to be able to help you and coach you and teach you. I can't do that if you don't share with me what you need in one of 3 areas. Okay. One, again, is be the authority and standing in the full power of your purpose, your gift. Second is understanding your worth. So today kind of was both. It was purpose and worth, because really understanding the worth of your health, but it's also looking at time management, looking at mom guilt, all the things that get in your way from you really being able to do the thing your purpose to do. And the third thing is, how do you make money from it? How do you create more revenue? By being all of what you were born to be in this world. So if you have questions around any of those 3, byb@blackdoctor.org is where you send an email. So again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for showing up. Now, here's the other thing. I always want to honor all of you that show up live. So that's why I look for questions and I answer questions. So two things. One, if you got any value, please share. There's a button here. If you're here live on Facebook somewhere, it might be over there. Share this and share this episode with your networks. And second, tell tell me the value you got out of this conversation for today, and tell me the one thing you are committed to do to increase your being, to increase your wellness, to increase your health, so that you can do the thing you do longer in life, right? Can you do an episode on the things that we consume? So this is not a health now. I'm Sue. You just heard the three topics I talked about, right? So I don't talk about food. That's not what this is. Bankroll your brilliance in three areas that we talk about. Okay, so with that said, send us an email, and we are happy. I'm happy to talk about one of those three topics in our pillars. So with that said, I'll be here next week for another episode. Thank you for joining us. Have a phenomenal Thursday. I'll see you soon. Bye, y'all.